Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Should be a fairly short meeting. Looks like we're good to go on the IT side. And we did have a workshop earlier with the audit committee to go over our fiscal year audit report. And that will come back here in a minute. But we'll start out with the call to order, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Council Member Spencer Wong.
Present.
Council Member Rigsby.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Daly.
Here.
Mayor Duper.
Present.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll start out actually with the invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Dr. Rigsby. Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager, are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to move on to our non-agendized public comment section. If anyone from the public wishes to speak on a non-agendized item, please come forward. We have one. Yes?
We have one speaker, Marjorie Barakian.
Hi, good evening. I live in District 1. Many of you that have been in Loma Linda a long time know my husband, David Barakian. We live at 11464 Via Lido, right off of Bryn Mawr. I have two quick items to bring up to you. We're one of the original property owners in the Monteros tract, which was built in 1988. And we were one of the first tracts to be part of the landscaping district. It looks much different now than it did 36 years ago. We have neighbors that live on the west side of, their back wall is the west side of Bryn Mawr, between Lawton and Via Oro. And the shrubbery on the walls has become very overgrown, where it grows over the top and into their backyards. And the problem started during COVID, when restaurants were closed, rats started leaving commercial property and coming into residential. And we have one neighbor in her 80s that her attic to her house became infested with rats. It was extremely expensive to remove. We all have Spanish tile roofs, and they're 36 years old now. My husband and I just paid to have ours redone. It's not cheap. It was $50,000, but they do that so that you don't have all the nooks and crannies that rats can get in. So if being part of the landscaping district, we pay on our property taxes to cover that service, but it's the city that hires the companies that maintain it. So all we're asking is that on the west side of Bryn Mawr, that they not have the shrubs grow over the top of the walls down into people's backyards, because people in their 80s can't get up there and trim it. So if they can just trim the shrubbery down so it doesn't encroach on the top of the wall, that should help not have so many rats coming into our neighborhood. We love our skunks and possums. We've lived with them for 36 years, so that's okay. We're not trying to shoo them away, just we don't want the rats. Also, people that own palm trees in Loma Linda, I'd like to remind them that they should regularly trim the skirts on the palm trees because they do become rats' nests, literally. So the second item to bring up to you that's become a problem on our particular block, we have an elderly woman that comes every Thursday morning to steal out of the blue trash cans. We don't know if someone's coercing her and dropping her off. She comes like clockwork. She'll do it right in front of you. But, you know, maybe she has food insecurities and she's desperate for the money from the recycling. What we don't know is there the possibility that things are being taken out of our blue trash cans that could be used for identity theft? And again, we have 3 people that live on our block in their 80s, and we also have a council person that lives on our block. And I don't think any of us want to become victims of identity theft. I've already talked to CR&R. Could they pick up our blue trash cans first? That was my request. They wanted me to come today to make sure that the local sheriff is aware of the issue. Maybe this woman needs some help, from a social worker or something. Maybe there's something that she's in need of. But, living in Loma Linda this long, we're not used to people coming and stealing from our trash cans. It doesn't look good. Between that and the rats, we're like, what's happening here? Anyway, thank you for taking the time to listen. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Margie.
Thank you. I'm not sure, and I know we have CR&R here. I know other cities have ordinances and regulations that once trash is put out on the street, it becomes city property, and then the city can become the victim. I don't know if do we have something like that here in this city?
I need to check on that.
Okay. I know in the city where I work, that's a problem. Different trash company, but the city becomes the victim, and that way it's enforceable when you have people going out and rooting through the recyclables and stuff like that. Otherwise, you have to have a victim to do a prosecution. Go ahead, sir.
My understanding, just from general legal reading, is that once you put your stuff out on the street, you've abandoned it, and it's not stealing to take it. You're basically stealing it from CR&R, because CR&R is the one that gets the money for the recycling. And it's not the city, it's not the homeowner. And I don't even know if it constitutes, because I steal from CR&R all the time and take my own recycling in. But that's completely acceptable. I don't know if it's acceptable for someone from the public to just go through everybody's. What's your position? Do you have any idea?
That's why I think there's cities that have specific ordinances on it, because what happens is the transients, they come and they make a mess of it. They'll usually dump them out and whatnot. And so, like in the city where I work, there's specific. Again, I don't know. We may not have one, or maybe we do. We just don't know about it. But the city becomes the victim, and that way when the sheriff gets called, they can actually enforce something, because there has to be some. Because, like you said, once you get rid of it, but that may be that other step that city is taking.
Yeah, I think we probably need to see chapter and verse to know that it's against the law. I don't know whether it is or not. Yeah.
Do we get money from, like, when they take the recycle? Does the city get money from the weight of the recycle? No. Okay.
No, that's factored into the cost of.
Factored into our fees. So it does come to the city and CR&R. The same woman comes in front of our house too. I thought we had reported it to the city already, but I'll make sure now.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can look into that and see if we don't have one, maybe then we need to get one. Okay. And then I was going to just say that, not to create a visual for you, but probably there's a reason the skunks and the possums come around. And I think it might have been that other thing you were complaining about. It might be their food. Yeah.
Well, we get coyotes, so I think they're somebody else's food.
I think the possums and the skunks might be the coyote food.
It's like National
Yeah, we
Geographic.
see them at our house.
The owls eat the skunks. They can't smell them.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome to Nature Live, or whatever we're going to call it.
I think
Okay. Anyway, it sounds like we'll look into that for you. I think Jarb will talk to you about it. We'll go from there. Okay. We have another speaker. Come on forward.
Hello, my name is Brianna. I live in the neighborhood that is north of Barton and east of California Street. I wanted to speak on the topic of homelessness today. There is, I think, like a known homeless encampment that has been popping up at times in the area in our neighborhood that is near the bike path and the wash over there, which is kind of like an in-between space, but I believe a lot of the times they're in the city of Loma Linda boundaries. And that's been a cause for concern for neighbors of mine, particularly the week before Thanksgiving. There was a fire that broke out in one of the camps, and thankfully nobody was hurt and it didn't spread any further. But I think it does speak to the need for like a comprehensive response to homelessness that we need in our city. And I know that there's other kind of hotspots. In particular, I just wanted to share what I see as maybe a good sort of three-pronged response to homelessness that I've seen work in other cities, and I can speak to specific examples. And I know that there might be pushback in terms of, we don't have funding, we don't have staff, or these problems come from other places, from San Bernardino, things like that. But I just really would like to ask that we not come up with excuses and take responsibility for what is within our own city. And so what I see as a three-pronged response is, number one, having adequate staff, particularly like a dedicated housing navigator or homelessness response team within the city or within the sheriff's department, for example. Somebody that can be called to work with people and connect them with services that has those resources available. But then number two is you need a place for them to go. And so that can take the form of like interim housing or shelters. And there's been a number of cities in Southern California that are successful with what's called like pallet housing, which are small, tiny homes essentially that are put on like parking lots. And then you have people 24/7 security, and they can live there for a period of time. And then the third leg that you need is permanent supportive housing, long-term housing that's affordable, that has services. And then there's funding available for this through the state, through Project Home Key, and as well as just general housing for people within the city at all income levels so that people don't fall into homelessness. And I've seen this work. I come from Redondo Beach. That's my hometown in LA County. It's a city that has had a lot of issues with homelessness. As you can imagine, people coming to the beach, people staying in the parking structures, in the parks, and it was an issue for many years. Just this year, they've achieved what's called functional zero homelessness. And that's because several years ago, like in 2020, they hired a housing navigator. They set up pallet housing within the span of a few months once they got grant funding to house 25 people. And then this year, they opened up Project Home Key sites that have, I believe it's 43 units in a converted motel for permanent housing. So these things can be done, and they can be done within a span of a few years. So I'd really urge us to think about these things and take responsibility for what we have and what we can offer.
Just to follow up on that, so we held a homeless workshop here with the council last month. All of those people that you describe already do work here in the city, work for the sheriff's department. We went through all of that. But I also got to tell you that those camps you're talking about are squarely in the city of Redlands. They are not in the city of Loma Linda, and we've been dealing with this for quite some time. Now, our folks still go out there. The sheriff's department still goes out there and they offer services, and the folks turn them down, and that's all documented multiple times. But they're in the city of Redlands. And part of our challenge with the city of Redlands is we've asked them to help with it also. So before we take claim to something that's you think might be in the city of Loma Linda, specifically along that walking path that's in the city of Redlands.
And just to let you know, we also work with the county flood control, and this camping on the south side Barton Road, they told us they have to be cleaned up by this weekend. So we're working on it with the county sheriff, with the county flood control, and Caltrans. So we work together on that.
Okay. Any progress on the next two steps that I mentioned, the housing?
Yes. The housing we work with Inland Temporary Home, where they house the homeless women with children. We also have the apartment for homeless veterans on Van Leuven. So we do have that. If, again, if they come in and ask for help, we have facility for them. But like the mayor said, a lot of times is they refuse. So we work with them, at least we clean up the camp. They will move down the street a little bit, and we clean up the camp, and then they move back. But, but we have to work with them, so, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna.
Okay, we're going to, any other comments? Milford? Okay. All right, we're going to move on to our regularly scheduled items, beginning with a joint meeting of the City Council and the Housing Authority regarding our annual comprehensive financial audit and report.
Good evening. Back in October, we had our final year-end audit, and tonight, Brianna Schultz, who's a partner with RAMS, our audit firm, and Monica Waisaki, she's a senior accountant for the firm. They're here to present the results of the audit, and then following them will be Anna Briones, senior accountant, financial analyst for the city, and she will be giving a more detailed presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Thanks for having me. I'm Brianna Schultz, Audit Engagement Partner. Along with me, it is not Veronica Hernandez. Monica Waisaki is joining me in her absence as well, but she was on the audit engagement this year as well with me. Excuse me. So we met with the audit committee prior to this, and so I'm just going to briefly go over the results of the audit, responsibilities of both the auditors and the auditees, your fiduciary responsibilities. So the city's is to present the city's financial position and results of the operations fairly and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We call that GAAP. Adopting sound accounting policies, providing reasonable accounting estimates, and really establishing and maintaining effective internal controls. Preventing and detecting fraud is something that management is responsible for. We as auditors, our job is not to find fraud, but if we happen across it, we are required to present it to council. I just want to caveat that we did not find anything like that this year, but it's still within the scope of our procedures. Our responsibilities are really to obtain reasonable, not absolute assurance that those financial statements are free of material misstatement. And we're doing, various tests and procedures to make sure that those numbers that are reported in that 200-page document are adequately reflected. We have, in the springtime, we have a separate piece of the audit where we are going through and reviewing internal controls, policies, procedures, making sure that the finance department is following all of those internal controls in place. Ultimately, we're expressing an opinion on the financial statements. That's the first 4 pages, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the audit report. And we are expressing an unmodified opinion. Once again, for this year, that's the highest level of assurance that an auditor can provide. And, our opinion is also telling you that all the significant accounting policies have been consistently applied and the disclosures are properly reflected. Excuse me. Some other key points: no disagreements with management. Sonia and Anna are always a pleasure to work with and provide, beautiful, clean support, everything that we need on the first request. No material errors or irregularities were discovered as a result of the audit, and no accounting, issues. There was no findings. It was really another clean year. So thank you again to your team and for having us again for another contract year. I'm happy to answer any of the questions specific to the audit. Otherwise, I'll hand it back to Sonia.
I want to be professional and appropriate, but bold. I actually read these 2 documents. I didn't even give this a crack. But I read these, every page.
Sir. Good.
And in academics, the basic message after reading both of them that I read is the impression I had is that a nerdy accountant and a nerdy lawyer got together and made a word salad. When I read a lot of documents in my career, legal and accounting and budgets and all that stuff. When I have to read a paragraph 2 or 3 times to try to figure out what's the message of this paragraph, I come from an academic background. I wouldn't give you a passing grade. I couldn't figure all this stuff out. I'll be honest with you.
I understand. I agree to a degree.
And I think there are many ways. I will say the second document finally got to bullet point summary. That all resonated with me, and I'm not somebody that just is looking for bullet points or overhead slides. That's not who I am. I want to understand it. I got lost multiple times. I got lost, and the expedient side of me says I'm not even going to bother to spend the time reading it in the future. But there's vast opportunity to improve for people that are not CPAs or attorneys to be able to get the message fully across without all of this. The basic message I got from both the documents is, here are some standards, but we're not addressing those standards, and it'd have to be egregious. Here's the minimum standard, and the city of Loma Linda has met that minimum standards, but we have no legal responsibility for any of this.
Correct.
That's the message I got. So if I'm wrong, then maybe you can help me out a little bit. But I trust the members of the audit committee, and I know the city's worked with your firm for a while, and I've never heard anything negative. But I got to tell you, this was painful for me. And I've read a lot of painful papers written by students. And so I know when I recognize that pain. So just take it for what it's worth. But
if I may,
sure.
All of those reports are promulgated by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. It's our national oversight committee.
So if I
am not wording that. That is all template, I don't want to say boilerplate, but for lack of a better term, for a clean, unmodified opinion with no findings and no issues, that is the report that we are required to present to you.
It took a long time to get there.
I'm sorry, I know. But that's why we have this, right? And the audit committee meeting, so that we can have just the verbal back and forth and maybe a little bit more comfort than what that letter should provide. But I understand. Yes. Letters and the audit report. There's 3.
And you will. Oh, okay.
But
I just needed to get off my chest after spending part of my afternoon going through that stuff, trying to understand it, and finally decided it's above my pay grade. So if we went to any accounting firm for an audit,
same letter.
I would see the same stuff.
Just on a different letterhead. Yes, sir.
Well, most professions have their own unique language, and obviously I'm not well versed in the accounting language, even though I've worked on many budgets. But so don't take it personally. But as a layman on a small city council, I found it all confusing and frustrating. And by the time I read those things, I wasn't even ready to look at this.
I'm going to leave that part to Sonia. So those are management's numbers.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm done.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Yes,
I think the take-home message is you didn't hurt her feelings at all.
That's okay. It's not the first I've heard it.
Yeah. Well, the other part is that, as you stated, every profession is a conspiracy against the laity. You can't charge high fees unless you say something that no one else understands. You do it in medicine and you do it in law. It's on purpose.
Okay. I think for me, the tell every year, at least last couple of years, is the awards and accolades and all that kind of stuff that our staff get. And then a lot of the direct one-on-one questions and asking about specifics. And either policy issues or things like that. Because it's important to remember that not only do they audit basically our books, but they look at how we do business overall. And so I think when we get the best thing that they can give us, which is a no finding, I know that's frustrating because we want like a blue ribbon or we want like, a 100 or something like that on our test sheet. But we have consistently got the best that they can give us. And so I'm confident that we're doing okay. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for spending time with us earlier to talk about that.
At least they got rid of the old language. It used to say, now it says an unmodified opinion.
Yes. And it's the first paragraph in the report.
Yeah.
It's actually easier.
And that's much better because they used to say, we, your expensive accounting firm, give you an unqualified opinion. And it's like, why did we pay you so much if you're unqualified?
It's good.
I am taking this home and I am going to peruse it. I don't want you to feel like you've done all this work and nobody's looking at it. I do intend, I won't promise it'll be page by page or I'll understand all of it, but yeah.
He's liable to send it back for corrections. That's the academic in him.
Oh. So I just wanted to add the survey. So he was a former dean of the School of Dentistry, and I'm currently a research professor. So one of the things I was really kind of cautious of the survey itself, because I'm reading the survey as black and white. There was a survey I had to fill out.
Yes.
Right? So I would recommend just having a cover letter that is for lay people, a little better to say, it's your best guess. Because I was thinking, well, if I say no, and there is, what's going to happen to me? I don't know the answers to these things. And are you even allowed to ask somebody the answers to these things? So I ran from your survey, and they had to track me down and keep telling me, you can't, you have to answer this. But I was worried that, what it means, what the ramification, and what the intent is behind. So having a cover letter for lay people that just says, it's your best estimate and what you use this for, and kind of more just generic terms, because how it came across was very legal and very, I guess, lawyerish. It's a good, and so, so people like me will run from your surveys because I'm going to look at it as it has to have the correct answer or no answer at all.
So that's pretty much the standard form that goes out to every organization. So those of us that sit on other boards, committees like IVDA, the airport, we get 3 or 4 of those a year.
I would say give a cover letter,
And
cover letter and say, it's okay.
There's one specific question that's very ambiguous, and it's do you know that the sky is blue? It's not that, but it's something
it's
that's
like that. How do you answer?
How do you answer this question?
Yeah, are you aware of fraud?
Yes. Are you aware of fraud?
It sounds like they found fraud and they're trying to find out if you knew about it.
Hence why I did not answer your survey.
No, we work for you, for the council, right? We don't work for management in theory. And so if there is anything that you want to communicate to us, before, during, after our procedures that you feel we need to be aware of, that's really that's where it's coming from. A conversation with maybe newer council members and board members, that's something we can keep in mind for future reference, because I agree. That conversation could have been had to prep you for that letter.
Okay.
My apologies.
Don't feel bad. Everybody gets those, and sometimes you get more than one.
Yeah.
But are you aware that fraud exists?
I was like, I don't know anything. And I think I preface it every email. I've only been here a few months. I know nothing. And so you take with a grain of salt. And I think that's the other thing, too, that I don't know if they have to ask is how long someone has been in this position, because their answers are very different than mine, So overall, good job, you guys.
And it doesn't get better quickly, because he was saying, I'm a newbie for about 10 years. That's how long it takes to figure this out.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Sonia.
The next
Bring it home.
presentation is by Anna Briones, Senior Accountant Financial Analyst. And she's going to give us an overview of what's included in the financial statements And if you want to just get the short version, I recommend reading page 5 through 17, which is the management discussion and analysis. And that just summarizes what's in the whole book. So,
Who chose Jarb's artwork for the cover page?
I was like, it looks familiar. Is this, it's the same cover? Or no? Never mind.
I know, I'm just asking who chose it.
we like to feature projects that have taken place during the year or that are in progress. So if you look at the front side of the back cover, you'll see the 1.6 million gallon reservoir. So we usually collect pictures throughout the year and try to feature them on here. Go ahead, Anna.
All right. Thank you, Sonia. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, city staff, and members of the public. My name is Ana Briones, Senior Accountant, Financial Analyst for the city. Tonight, I'm here to present the city's financial statements for fiscal year 2024. You have before you copies of the city's annual comprehensive financial report, which is also sometimes referred to as ACFR or ACFR, and it is also included in the packet online. I'll be giving an overview of the financial statements. Let's start with the structure of the report. The report is divided into three main sections: introductory, financial, and statistical section. The introductory section, this part includes a transmittal letter that provides an overview of the city's profile, significant events and accomplishments that occurred during 2024. It also includes the Government Finance Officers Association Award for fiscal year 2023 for excellence in financial reporting, a list of principal officers in place during fiscal year 2024, and an organization chart. For the financial section, it includes the auditor's report that Brianna has summarized. Again, the city received the unmodified or clean opinion. And it also includes the management discussion and analysis that Sonia mentioned. And then it includes the financial statements, the notes to the financial statements, required supplementary information, and supplementary information that compares budget to actual for each governmental fund. And again, the management discussion and analysis, it provides a comprehensive and understandable explanation of the overall financial condition of the city and any significant changes from the previous year. And that's found on pages 5 to 17 in the financial section. Statistical section includes financial trends, revenue and debt capacity, demographic, economic, and operating information. So the city, next slide, the city, the financial statements includes the city, Loma Linda Housing Authority, successor agency, and it covers the periods from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Moving on to financial presentation. There are two financial presentations. The government-wide statements report the city as a whole and provides a complete financial picture. These statements use the full accrual basis of accounting and include non-current items such as long-term debt and capital assets and non-cash items like depreciation expense, while these items are not reported in the fund financial statements. The fund financial statements are presented on the modified accrual basis of accounting. So this is a mix of full accrual and cash basis. And on a day-to-day basis, the financial transactions are recorded using the modified accrual. And at year end, the fund financials are converted into the full accounting to report the city as a whole and provide a comprehensive view of the city's finances comparable to a business type entity that are also run at full accrual. Now, the upcoming slides will highlight certain sections of the financial statements. This slides gives an overview of the statement of activities, and it's found on pages 19 to 20 of the ACFR. For the year ended June 30, 2024, citywide net position increased by 1.9 million, starting from 163.1 million at the start of the fiscal year to 165 million at the end of the fiscal year. Of this change, so this is the bottom line, 2.3 million is coming from governmental activities, and 371,000 is decrease coming from business type activities. Overall, the city's net position has improved during the current year. This slide gives an overview of the statement of net position. The statement of net position shows the difference of what the city owns, the city's assets, which was 210 million at June 30, and the liabilities, which was 44.8 million. The difference is net position of 165 million, which we saw on the previous slide. For governmental activities, the net position is 133.7 million, and for business type activities, which includes water, sewer fund, and connected communities, total net position is 31.3 million. Net position is then divided into three categories: net investment in capital assets, which represents the city's investment in capital asset less accumulated depreciation. Restricted are for can be only be used for purposes of public works projects, public safety, community development, general government, and debt service. And unrestricted is used to meet the city's day-to-day obligations, and a portion may also be subject to internal restrictions or limitations. Moving on to the next financial statement, this is on the statement of activities. This financial statement provides an overall picture of the resources needed to run the city by the type of activities necessary for city operations. This first section here shows the total cost of city services net of program revenues. So it shows how much it costs to operate the city after accounting for specific revenues like charges for services, operating, and capital grants. For fiscal year 2024, looking at this line, total cost of governmental activities was 33.1 million, and after applying program revenues, such as charges for services and operating capital contribution of 15.8 million, the net remaining cost was the 17.3 million. So this then is offset or subsidized by general revenues. General revenues come from taxes, investment income, and miscellaneous income. For business type activities, total cost to run was 16.5 million. We're on this line. And after offsetting charges for services being collected for these activities, it left a deficit of 1.8 million.
Can you, I mean, I understand the words, but can you help me understand business type activities?
Business type activities include the water, sewer fund, and connected communities. Enterprise funds.
Okay, okay, thank you.
The combined net cost of governmental activities and business type activities was 19.2 million. This net cost is up from 10.9 million from last fiscal year due to 2024 had fewer significant grants and capital contributions compared to the previous year. In 2023, there were more program revenues to offset expenses. For general revenues, the amount increased by 3.7 million from 2023. Half of the increase comes from investment income, which increased by 1.8 million. And this is largely due to the higher interest environment by recent standards. The other majority comes from sales tax increase in the amount of 1.2 million. So general revenues, it includes sales tax, but it is also reduced by sales tax incentives. During the fiscal year, sales tax collection was higher by 220,000 or about 2.4%. However, the corresponding sales tax incentive was lower than by about $1 million. This was due to delay in sales tax revenue collection and an adjustment in sales tax. In summary, while the net cost of running the city increased from 2023 to 2024, the city also collected more in general revenues and reduced the tax incentive cost, resulting in an overall increase in the city's net position by 1.9 million. So we've gone over the government-wide financial statements. Now we're moving on to the fund financials. This slide shows the general fund balance classifications. The general fund ended the year with a 21.3 million in fund balance, which was an increase of 1,938,696 from the previous year. Total fund balance is categorized into different restrictions and purpose. $2 million of committed is for emergency contingency, and then the assigned fund balance includes 1.2 million for capital equipment replacement, 530,000 for fire equipment replacement, 260,000 for refuse services, 34,000 for fire training. Unassigned fund balance is the money available for day-to-day operations in the general fund. This slide shows the summary of the general fund statement of revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance. Basically, it shows the operating results for the year for the general fund. General fund revenue had revenues of 26.6 million in 2024, offset by expenditures of 25.9 million, plus other financing sources of 1.2 million, contributing to the increase in fund balance of the 1,938,696. Compared to prior year, revenues increased by 3.1 million and expenditures increased by 965,000. Now, on the next slide, we're going to look at the operating results in comparison to the budget. This slide shows the budgetary comparison for the general fund. This column shows the original and then the final adjusted budget, actual amounts, which what we saw from the previous slide, and the variance with final budget. For the revenues, initially the city expected to bring 24.4 million, and then it was adjusted to 25.9 million. Actual results turned out higher than the final budget amount in the amount of 26.6 million. This increase was mainly due to better than expected results in taxes, licenses and permit, intergovernmental charges for services, and use of money and property, totaling 1.4 million, and then it was offset by lower than budget results in fines and forfeitures and miscellaneous revenue. Looking at the expenditures, the original budget was 25.1 million, adjusted to 27.2 million at mid-year and throughout the year, and actual result came in at 25.9 million, resulting to overall favorable expenditure budget variance of 1,358,510. This is about a 5.2% favorable budget variance. This was due to a wide variety of factors, including conservative and controlled spending citywide. Other financing sources on this line also shows a positive budget variance by 399,000. This is due to a software acquisition, but this has a corresponding increase in expenditures as well on this line item. So in summary, while the city expected a small surplus with the original budget or even a deficit in the final budget, it ended up with a 1.9 million surplus to add to fund balance.
And most of that was achieved through spending, right? Because our revenue increase was 700 grand.
Correct. Moving on to the business type activities. As seen here, the change is in net position, which is the end result of operations for business type activities, was a negative 372,000, which is made up of positive changes in the Water Enterprise Fund and Sewer Capital, and negative changes for the water acquisition and the Loma Linda Connected Communities.
What is Loma Linda Connected Communities?
The internet service.
That loses money every year, but we can't get rid of it because it's tied to redevelopment agency money. So it's an ongoing.
For how long?
Forever.
Oh.
Okay. The state took away their funding source, which is the RDA. So.
Because we're losing a lot. So it's this amount we lose every year, like, or it goes up and down?
We have a plan to.
Well, we've had a couple of plans over the years. We've tried to sell it. We've tried to give it away. We've tried all kinds of things.
Yeah, and we work on something different.
The problem is we're obligated by the state to manage it until it's gone or we do something with it. So it's not something we can just lightly get rid of.
So there's no discussion with the state as to like.
Oh, they don't know.
We've done very well compared to
Other
what
places.
could have happened.
Yeah.
We'll tell you later. It's complicated.
The state is sometimes good at unfunded mandates. We deal with it at Omnitrans too.
Now, this was a foiled theft attempt by the state, and this is a very good outcome compared to what could have happened.
And what's happened to other places.
And the reason the water acquisition fund is negative 6.5 million is for the cost of building a 1.6 million gallon reservoir. So the money is actually for the tank. So.
I don't want to brag, but we did thwart them in some regards. Yeah, but I shouldn't put that in a public meeting. We'll have to talk about that.
Okay.
We're getting a fire station out of it. Let's just say that.
Okay. As was mentioned, the decrease in the Loma Linda Connected Communities is due to continued lack of revenues to offset accruing interest on the loans owed to the successor agency.
Didn't we buy some equipment too in 23 that was part of that or no? I thought we bought something to shore it up a little bit because we were looking to try to take it. When did we do that?
We bought hardware.
Yeah, was that in 23? Was that part of that cost too or no?
What percentage of the losses are accrued interest?
500,000 every year.
So almost the whole thing is accrued interest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's some pension expense too that are not funded by operating revenues.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I apologize.
For the Water Enterprise Fund ended with a positive change in net position of 5.8 million, mainly due to capital transfers from water acquisition. So what we do is, since the water acquisition, it can't recognize capital assets, therefore it contributes capital to the Water Enterprise Fund. The sewer capital had 673,000 more revenues than expenditures, causing a positive change in net position. Moving on to the statement for the successor agency. The fiduciary net position for the successor agency improved by 4.6 million. This is due to liabilities decreasing by 4 million due to the debt service payments made during the year. This is the statement of changes in fiduciary net position for the successor agency. The successor agency received 4.9 million in property taxes for the 2024 fiscal year through the recognized obligation payment schedule process. And then the deductions incurred are for interest expense on the debt and for general and administrative charges. And this concludes my presentation. The ACFR will be posted on the city's website as early as tomorrow. We would like to thank everyone from every department for their assistance in the preparation of the city's 2024 ACFR. The report information not only includes financial data, but it also includes significant accomplishments for 2024 and statistical information that is gathered from all city departments. Everyone's participation is very much appreciated. Staff requests that the City Council receive and file the annual comprehensive financial report for 2024. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm not going to ask questions now. I want to read carefully the report that you have on pages 5 through 17.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I assume you'll both be available if I can't read a document without having questions, so I'll probably be coming by.
Sounds good.
But I understand the summary. Thank you.
I don't have, it's good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank our outstanding finance department, led by Sonia. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I need to take a bow.
It's a lot of work.
I'd like to thank Anna. Anna has put a lot of work into this, and she has by far made the process a whole lot better than when I was doing it. And so we have received the GFOA award every single year, and every year they have comments, but since Anna's been doing it, we've had a lot less comments. So she has put a lot of work into it, and I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank
Anna.
you.
And she is one of the staff that live here in town, so.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much for that. It's just a receive and file, so no action necessary. But let's move on to the consent calendar.
Move it.
Second.
I have a first and a second.
Motion is to approve the consent calendar as submitted. Please vote. Motion carried. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, now that you approved the consent calendar, which is one of the items, is approved the CDBG grant for the county library. I would like to introduce our new branch manager, Colton. Can you stand up? So,
Welcome.
thank you, Colton.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay, moving on to old business. Update on our revenue generating committee.
Okay, so people have been expressing interest and getting in touch. So I have a list of names, and this is by no means exhaustive, or we can add if there's other people you guys think. So we had 3 areas where we're picking from. And by the way, the idea for a revenue generating committee is just to gather people from the community, from the city, and from the university together to come up with ideas or ways that we would like to see the city move to generate funds for us. So from the community, I have a number of people, and if you guys have others, please let me know who you think should be. But Bob Stewart was one, and I just saw him at the Walmart. We were at the Walmart grand reopening Friday morning, I think it was Friday morning. So Bob Stewart, he's over United Properties within our region. Bruce Herwig, I think I said his name right, and I think he might even be is he from the city? I don't remember. But Bruce, Anna Love is community member, Jenny Monig, community member, Bhavin Jindal has expressed interest in being part, and at the Chambers of Commerce breakfast, I met Najwa's brother, and he was really excited. So Nabil, Najwa's brother, has expressed interest to join us and give ideas, and he's really gung-ho. From the city, I have Gary Nelson with the budget, and then, of course, Andrea with our chamber. And then from the university side of things, I have myself, Ada Arechiga, he's the dean of the School of Public Health. And then there's a number of students that have expressed interest to come be part and kind of give a perspective from the student point of view of what would be great to see for our city. Brianna is one of the students. And we do have a few consultant communities that I met at the League of Cities, one that's interested to support us, not necessarily on the committee, but probably we can call them, was Rancho Cucamonga. And the other one I think I met was Grand Terrace, but I'm not remembering. So far, that's kind of the list of the people that are interested. If you guys have other names of people, I'd love to hear, and we can definitely add them. I think we have a good mix between we don't have anybody from the church. The university is kind of seen as a dual.
You have Gary Nelson, because Gary Nelson runs the budget for University Church.
Oh, so we do. Okay, I take it back.
Now, last time I thought we had a consensus that there would be one additional councilman, Councilman Popescu, because I've heard him speak multiple times about all of the businesses that are eager to be a part of Loma Linda. So
we'll invite him. We'll invite him to the meetings. I'll invite him. We'll see.
And if he doesn't want to be on the committee, at least share who he's been talking with.
You're more likely to get him if you say he's forbidden.
Okay. If there's any other ideas, you guys can tell me. But so far, that's the kind of committee we're hoping to have starting I already emailed starting in January to begin gathering like once a month or twice a month to kind of come up with a plan. And the committee itself will identify the goals and objectives and what they want. But one of the names that has come up from the Revenue Committee already through the university side was the name Mia Kirikos and Associates. So I forwarded to you guys some information from Mia. She is an international leader in the wellness industry, helping from communities to businesses to cities. She's right now with the city of Los Angeles, but she's been with Google and Hyatt and other high-end industries, helping them to develop wellness not only for the corporation, but wellness in terms of for the community and the city. And she came out and took a look because Loma Linda has the tagline, a blue zone. She came after she was in Scotland at a wellness conference, and so came here and wanted to see, and she has ideas for us, and possibly we could collaborate with her or hire her expertise. But first she wanted, because she vets who she'll even take on, she wanted to meet with each of us. And I'm hoping Lynette can connect us, but she wanted via Zoom to meet with us and even to see what it is that we would want for our city, what we like about the city, what we think could be improved, what she could do, just kind of meeting one-on-one to see with each of the council. So I can connect you guys, but I think it would be great to see what she charges typically from like $5,000 to $7,000 a day, even just to come out and take a look. And she came and spent 2 days with me to see, and was even looking at the university side of things. She met with Dr. Hart to see what the university is wanting to do. The university is challenged too right now. I think one of my colleagues just found out yesterday they were not getting the return contract. So they're starting to cut 30 employees from across the university already. So one of my colleagues was cut. So everybody is kind of in the same financial pool of we need to figure out what kind of business or how we want to generate revenue for our community. The university could do as well. So hopefully, I'm hoping Mia, I think she has great ideas. So she would like to meet with each of us, if that might be okay. So I'll have Lynette, I'll connect you guys with Lynette. Any questions on the revenue or any ideas or other things we should already be looking at?
I'd recommend Jay Gallant also.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he lives over near you. He's been our budget finance committee for years and years too. Lives here in town.
Oh, he's a lawyer. Is he the lawyer? Or his dad was the lawyer?
No, yeah, his son's a lawyer, and he works in the healthcare industry, but just not ours here.
Okay,
and,
his name's Jake
Gallant. So maybe Jarb can connect you, and you
Can
can
you
hit him up,
connect
see
me
if
with
he's interested.
Okay. Any other ideas of people that you think would be good?
Just from experience, I think you got a lot of people
I
already,
know.
and you're going to have a crowd pretty soon. And
We're going to save the food from the tie to serve again. We won't tell public health, though, that we're saving the food. But yeah.
But I'm not eager for it to be any bigger than
Okay,
it is. There may be
okay.
other people, but my experience is the smaller the committee, the more you accomplish. So, but you need a representative group, and I think you've got a good formula from my perspective.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
All right. Okay, any other reports of council members? Reports of officers? Okay, we will adjourn the. Yep.
The last Sunday, Loma Linda Classic run went out very good. So, and even Chief Dan Harger ran. It's a 5K. Yeah, him and his family ran. So
Who was chasing you?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
We had the Christmas tree lighting ceremony that was pretty phenomenal. Thank you, Lynette and Sonia and all the staff that put that together. That was pretty awesome. So thank you for that.
Who decorated the tree? It had ornaments this year.
Public Works.
Oh, that was really pretty.
We were all commenting on, we've been around for a while, and when that was planted, it was the Charlie Brown tree. It was about 2 feet tall, and looked just kind of still looks like the Charlie Brown tree a little bit, but yeah. It's been a minute. Go ahead, Ron. You know, you were just getting ready to say something.
I was thinking that I don't know it's worth saying, but either in the next couple of years, we're going to have to trim the tree or tear the sidewalk up to give it more space to grow. Things getting big. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that concludes our city council meeting. We'll move on to the housing authority. I believe that's the way you like to do it, right? Okay. And while she's bringing that up, any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on a non-agendized housing authority item, please come forward. Seeing nobody. As soon as she gets that up there, I believe the only thing we have is the consent calendar.
Move it.
We have a first and a second.
Thank you. Motion is to approve the consent calendar as submitted. Please vote. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any old business, new business, reports of members, or reports of officers? Seeing none, we will close that and move on to the successor agency. That is what we were talking about earlier in terms of the wind down from redevelopment agencies. And are there any items to be added or deleted on the successor agency?
No, sir.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on a non-agendized successor agency item? Milford, this is your chance. Okay. All right, seeing nobody come forward, I think we just have the consent calendar there also. First and a second.
Motion is to approve the consent calendar as submitted. Please vote. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any old, new business, reports of officers, members? Seeing none, we'll close that, and we are adjourned. So happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas. Have a safe New Year. Have safe travels to those of us that are leaving the country. Was that because of the election, or you're just no?
Try to spread the joy.
All right, well, be safe. Have fun.